Hello guys, welcome to my channel. This is the fourth tutorial in this course, and in this tutorial we are going to have a look at another boring presentation, right? And I just don't know why I make such boring presentations, but anyway, we're going to check out a few concepts and some of the things that we're going to talk about in this tutorial. We've already talked about them a little bit in the previous tutorials, but there's no harm revisiting some important concepts. So anyway, the first slide asks us a question: what is a table? And we probably know by now what a table is, but then again, the definition of a table is that it is a database object that is composed of rows and columns. So firstly, what I mean by the fact that a table is a database object is that when you create tables, you have to put your tables within databases, right? So tables cannot exist outside databases, they have to be stored within databases. And then tables have some kind of a structure, right? So they've got rows and they've got columns, and we've seen how an Excel sheet is like a table, right? Because it's got so many cells, and it's got rows and columns, and at the intersection of rows and columns you have cells, and in those cells you put in information, right? So an Excel sheet is an excellent example of a table. And then in SQL, a table is created using the create table command, and we're not going to use the create table command in this tutorial, but we are going to understand it in depth later on in the course. But I just wanted to mention it to you guys that we create tables in SQL using commands, right? And then in the next slide, I have an example of a table for you guys. So this table has information about tennis players and their rankings. So you have three fields. The first one is called rank, the second one is name, and the third one is age. And the rank field obviously holds rankings of tennis players from 1 to 10. The name field holds the names of tennis players, and the age field holds the ages of tennis players, right? So rank 1, well, Novak Djokovic is at top and he's 26 years old. And then on rank 2 you have Rafael Nadal. How the hell did I misspell Rafael Nadal's name? That's like very disturbing error. And Roger Federer, by the way, has slipped number 7, in case you don't know. And I'm a huge Roger Federer fan, but that's not the reason why I misspelled Rafael Nadal's name. I'm a fan of Rafa too, so please, Rafa fans, don't take offense. This was just a typo. So anyway, you've got all this information, and you always have to give some name to your tables in SQL, right? So you could call this table anything, like tennis underscore rankings, or rankings underscore tennis, or whatever, right? So anyway, on the next slide I have another question for you guys, and this one is: what is a field? A field is a column in a table that is supposed to provide specific information about all the records in the table. And in layman terms, what this means is that rank here is a field, right? And name is another field, and age is another field. So all the columns that are associated with the rank field are going to hold rankings of tennis players, and all the columns that are associated with the name field are going to hold names of tennis players, and all the ones that are associated with age are going to hold ages, right? So you cannot have email addresses in the age field, right? If you put a constraint that the data type of this field is going to be integer, then you cannot have characters in here. So field are the headings that you see when you create a table, right? So this is the reason why I am discussing these things with you guys, is because we'll be using all these terms a lot, right? So we're going to talk about rows and columns and records and fields way too much in this course. So I want you guys to just understand all these things at the very beginning of the course. And in the previous table, in the previous slide, sorry, the rank, name, and age, these three things are fields, and we know that. So the next slide asks us yet another question: what is a record? And a record is a row in a table, and the table seen earlier has 10 records or 10 rows, right? So each row has 3 columns, and in the first column you have rank of a tennis player, in the second column you have the tennis player's name, in the third one you have the tennis player's age, right? And there are 10 rankings, so corresponding to the 10 rankings you have 10 rows, right? And a record is also known as a horizontal entity of a table. You don't need to remember this, but some people might be writing exams on SQL, so you can find questions such as these, like, okay, what is the difference between horizontal entity and vertical entity of a table? So column is a vertical entity and a record is a horizontal entity, and this is in fact what we're going to talk about in the next slide. What is a column? So a column is a vertical entity in a table that contains information associated with a specific field. So in the previous, in the last slide, what was it, last or last? Anyway, the table that we saw, for tennis players, we have all these columns in it. So the name is the field, and then you have, all the information stored associated with names in columns in the table, right? So Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal, Andy Murray, all these are names of tennis players, and you have, similar information, as I said, information about names arranged in columns, right? And next we are going to talk about null value. So what is a null value? You would hear a lot of people say that null value is 0 or null value is the space character, but that's not true, right? Null value simply means nothing, right? It is no value. So if you are inserting data in a table, and if you do not provide value for a cell, the cell is set to contain null value. And what I mean is, if you're populating a table in a database, if you're putting information in it, and if for a particular cell or a particular column in a row you do not want to provide any input, you do not want to put any information in it, then you just don't type in anything, right? You don't put in a space character, you don't put in 0, or you don't put in any alphabet or any special character, you just don't put anything. And that absence of information, that absence of data, is actually null value, right? So it's unknown, nobody knows what that is, so that's why we call it null value. So anyway, thank you so much for watching this tutorial. That's the end of the presentation, and well, we are moving towards the business end of this course. So in the next tutorial, we are going to get our hands dirty with 3 very simple SQL commands. We're going to learn to create databases, drop databases, and also use databases. So thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I'm going to see you in the next one. Please subscribe to my channel in case you haven't already, and I'll see you soon.